Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, so chapter number 12, service costing. Let's start discussing. Nothing much on the theory part to be discussed, nothing new to learn actually, because we have taken up this chapter at the very end. We have already finished with all other chapters, including standard costing, marginal costing, budget, and budgetary control. So nothing much is left to be discussed under this chapter, but I'll only tell you certain things which are important. Here in this chapter, basically this is a cost sheet based chapter. What we'll be doing is, we will be preparing a cost sheet for whatever the service we are given. It may be a cost sheet for a transport operator, it may be a cost sheet for a hotel, it may be for a software company. This cost sheet depends upon, it is prepared for the certain cost object. For example, if it's a software company or IT company, the cost object would be a project. If it's a transport company, we will prepare it for the entire period, whatever the period is under consideration, and we will use the cost unit which is unique in service costing. And this we had discussed in the very first chapter, that under service costing, composite cost units may need to be used. For example, if you consider a transport of goods, then there are two variables under consideration. One is distance traveled and another is weight carried. So for example, I'm asking you, is the service costing chargeability, or let's say its price or whatever they quote per unit, will it depend upon this distance travel? I'm asking you, is distance traveled important?
Yes,
Is it a
sir.
variable? Yes. Means your cost will change according to distance traveled. Yes or no?
Yes.
And it also may change according to the weight that is carried. Yes. So that means this is a challenge as to, and also the rate that you are quoting, you are charging, say you are expecting a 10% or 15% profit and you are charging something, then the price that you are quoting, the rate that you are charging would also depend on two things, distance traveled as well as weight carried. So suppose I book a transport for 100 kilometers for 10 metric tons, the price or rate that is quoted is different. And I book the same distance, but the weight is only 2 metric tons, then it would has to be different. Suppose I book for 10 tons I want to carry my goods, and I book a transport for 500 kilometers, the rate would be different than if I book it for 1000 kilometers. So that is a challenge as to how actually it is to be done. So that's why this is generally taken care of by using composite units. So both things are used and the composite unit is ton kilometers. If it's a passenger transport, the composite unit is passenger kilometer. So cost is calculated per ton kilometer or per passenger kilometer, and accordingly the rate is quoted. Okay, so this is about service costing, nothing new, only we whatever we have learned we'll apply the same concepts, all the concepts which we have learned we shall apply in preparing a service costing cost sheet. So we shall quickly go through the presentation, and this will make you understand, give the holistic view of what this chapter is all about, and then we'll start solving questions. So application of service costing can be internal, like for in-house services provided by a service cost center to other responsibility centers as support services. So in your organization itself may have service cost centers. The example is right here. For example, canteen, hospital for staff, boiler house, captive power generation unit, etc. So you may have a IT department, the services of EDP department, the services of which is used by other departments. So if that is the case, then this is kind of application of service costing. The concept of service costing shall apply to that department, so that then the department costs or department overheads can be charged to the production departments. So this is internal application of service costing. Do you understand? Do you get what it is? Internal application of service costing means?
Yes, sir.
And then there can be an external application, means when you are a service provider itself, Then, for example, goods transport service provider, passenger transport, hospitality services provided by a hotel, finance services provided by financial institutions. So when you are a service provider, you are providing service to the outsider, means your business is in itself providing services to the others. In that case, you are applying that for your entity, that is called as external application of service costing. So it's very easy, internal and external application of service costing. What are the basic differences between service costing and product costing? Hitherto, whatever we learned, our focus was purely on product costing. What are the differences? The first one is, unlike products, I just forgot to ask, is this PPT visible, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So unlike products, services are intangible and cannot be stored. Hence, there is no inventory for the services. Obviously, no inventory, it cannot be stored, intangible in nature. Use of composite cost units, as I just said, for cost measurement and to express the volume of outputs like ton kilometers, passenger kilometers, room days, per patient per day, patient days. These are the composite units which are used. We shall also see a list of what are the units are used. Unlike product manufacturing, employee or labor cost constitutes a major cost element than material cost. Obviously, basically there is no direct material which is used generally. Do you agree? Or if the material is at all used in provision of the services, the quantum is very low, not significant. Like product costing, a product is made up of material itself. A tangible product is made up of material, and this is purely intangible. So employee cost is on a higher side, overheads comparatively are on a higher side, material cost is very little, if at all is there. And indirect costs like admin overheads are generally have a significant proportion in the total cost of service, as unlike manufacturing sector. So these are the overall differences between the service and product costing. Is it clear? Going ahead, service cost units. One specific issue with the service costing is the difficulty in defining realistic cost unit that represents, like for example, see if it's a product, it can be easily measured in terms of weight or number of units. It's very easy. If it's a liquid, output is in a liquid form, you can measure it in terms of liter. So cost units is comparatively very easily one you can understand in product costing, but in service costing, this is a specific issue. The cost unit to be applied needs to be defined carefully, and frequently a composite cost unit may be deemed to be more. So carefully, what is your object? Depending upon that, what is the cost object? Depending upon that, carefully you have to apply the cost unit. So these are the examples which we can quickly go through. If it's a transport service, passenger kilometers. In public transport, goods transport, quintal ton kilometers. If it's an electricity supply service, kWh, kilowatt hours is a generally used unit. Hospital, patient per day, room per day, per bed, per operation, etc. Canteen, per item, per meal. Cinema, per ticket. Hotels, room days or guest days. Bank or financial institution, per transaction, per service, per LC, per project, etc. Educational institutions, per course, per student, per batch, per lecture. Depending upon what is your objective, depending upon that you use a specific cost unit. IT and IT enabled services. ITES means IT enabled services. Cost per project or per module. And insurance company, per policy, per claim. These are the various types of units which are used. Then in goods transport, ton kilometers, as I said, this is very important, please listen to this, can be either absolute ton kilometers or it can be commercial ton kilometers. Okay, we will take one question also on this as to how to calculate absolute ton kilometers and how to calculate commercial ton kilometers. In absolute ton kilometers, we use a weighted average method, and in commercial ton kilometers, we use a simple average. So I'll give you example. For example, you start your journey at one point with 10 tons, 10 metric tons. You travel certain distance, you unload 2 metric tons. Then you travel further distance, then you unload another 2 metric tons. So now you are carrying 6 metric tons. Then you travel some another distance and some 1 metric ton is loaded. And then you travel to the final destination and unload everything. Now, for different distances, different weights are carried. Do you agree?
Yes.
So if that is the case, and we use a weighted average. So for example, 10 kilometers, suppose was carried for 100 kilometers, then 2 kilometers were unloaded, 8 kilometers for 80, 8 tons for 80 kilometers. So 8 into 80, then 6 tons for another 100 kilometers, 6 into 100, and so on. This is called as absolute ton kilometers, weighted average. Whereas in a commercial ton kilometers, simple average we take. So we simply take the total distance traveled and average weight that is carried. And we'll see how we do that. Once you will take up the example, you will understand the difference. Sometimes absolute ton kilometers calculation is difficult because continuous loading, unloading, loading, unloading at various intermediate destinations may happen. So it is sensible to use commercial ton kilometers because ultimately you are fixing up your chargeability rate, how much price you are going to quote. Depending upon if you use commercial ton kilometers, accordingly you will quote. And it doesn't make much of the difference because ultimately your objective is to earn profit and that is taken care of even if you use a commercial ton kilometers. Because ultimately if you are quoting, if you are using for calculation of the cost commercial ton kilometers, then also your chargeability will depend upon commercial ton kilometers. So the difference between absolute ton kilometers and commercial ton kilometers will be very clear when we'll take up the example. Okay. So as of now, we will take a practical example and it will be very clear. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So transport service can be goods transport or it can be passenger transport. If it's a goods transport, we use a ton kilometers as a measure, which may be absolute ton kilometers or commercial ton kilometers. If in exam nothing is given, we always calculate weighted average, that is absolute ton kilometers. Okay. So understand, most of the times they don't give anything and we calculate absolute ton kilometers. So how the cost sheet will look like? Cost sheet will have 3 headings. Costs are bifurcated under 3 headings. The first heading is fixed costs or standing charges. Now understand this. Imagine a vehicle, means a goods vehicle or a transport vehicle or a passenger transport vehicle. It would require insurance, it would require license fees, salary to the driver may be fixed, salary to the conductor may be fixed, cleaner if they are paid on a monthly basis, garage may be required, garage rent may have to be paid, certain taxes, vehicle taxes are to be paid. All these are standing charges, fixed charges. It doesn't depend upon how much kilometers it is run. So if they are fixed in nature, we bifurcate them, we classify them under fixed cost or standing charges. Variable cost or running cost, petrol and diesel, lubricant oils, wages to driver, conductor, cleaner, if it is related to operation. So sometimes wages can be classified as standing charges, sometimes they are classified as a running cost. If the question is silent, generally we classify them as a running cost and any other variable costs which are identified. And then semi-variable generally or maintenance cost. The heading generally usually used as standing charges, running charges, and operation and maintenance cost, repairs and maintenance, tires, spares, etc. Quickly, I would request you to go through the 3 headings, and because this is many a times a question on transport services asked, and only it's a matter of presentation. For the matter of presentation only this is required. By the way, do you remember this terminology we use somewhere? Standing charges, running cost. This terminology we have already used. Where, Omkar is saying yes. Where we have used it? He says maybe overheads. Omkar, while calculating machine hour rate, Under the overheads chapter, yes. But for calculating machine hour rate, when we prepared a cost sheet, we prepared in this manner, if you remember. Yes or no, guys? Do you remember this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can we go ahead? This is about the transport service. So what we will be doing actually is, we will be preparing a cost sheet in this format. Then we will calculate ton kilometers or passenger kilometers, depending upon which service it is. And then we'll calculate cost per ton kilometer or cost per passenger kilometer. And if they have given information about this much is the profit percentage, etc., we will add that and we will come to the tariff per ton kilometer or tariff per passenger kilometer. Hotels and lodges. Before we go ahead, I would like to tell you one thing. Suppose you might have visited on some occasion, you might have visited any accommodation like lodges, etc. So if you go to any lodge, there is not always one type of a room. There are different types of rooms. Like they have a deluxe AC room, they have non-AC room, they have certain kinds of suites. 3, 4, 5 different types of rooms may be available depending upon which category of the hotel it is. If it's a 5-star, there may be some more options which are available. Do you agree that there are different types of rooms that are available?
Yes, sir.
However, do you also agree to the fact that most of the costs are fixed in nature and it is really difficult to actually have an understanding? Suppose, let's assume, for example, there are 2 types of rooms, AC and non-AC. Except the cost of AC, all other costs are common to AC as well as non-AC.
Yes.
So suppose there is a cleaner and cleaner cleans the AC room and he cleans the non-AC room. So cleaner tells you, no, because I'm cleaning AC room, you pay me more. For non-AC room, you pay me less. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, right?
Yes.
So most of the costs are absolutely common to whichever type of room it is. You must agree to this.
Yes, sir.
So, however, the tariff that is given, so you go to the hotel and you see the tariff generally. First thing you do is you see the tariff. The tariff is definitely different. For a non-AC room, a very low rate is there. For AC room, a higher rate is there. If it's a suite, and then it's double room, family room, different types, the rates are different. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So this is a real challenge as to how to fix up the different rates when costs are really common. It's very difficult to bifurcate cost. See, generally what we do, suppose for this item, suppose I have to fix up the rate, means the selling price, suppose I have to fix up, I identify the cost of that item and then I consider whatever my profit is and I fix up the rate, correct?
Yes.
But for a hotel or lodges, identifying the cost of AC room separately, the suite separately, the deluxe room separately, isn't it difficult? Don't you think it is really difficult?
Yes.
Sir.
So what we do is, instead of doing that, we use the equivalent output concept for service costing. And how do we do it? I'll tell you. For example, depending upon the market situation, depending upon the demand from the customers, and depending upon their hold, means their depending upon their choices that they make, we first fix up the rates. For example, if we decide that a AC room rate should be 50% more than the non-AC and a suite room should be twice that of the AC room, this distinction can be done depending upon the market.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Once we do this distinction, we assign them weights. For example, if a non-AC room is given a weight 1, then the AC room is given weight 1.5 and suite is given weight 3 because the tariff is twice that of AC. Do you get it? How we assign the weights?
Yes, sir.
And once we have assigned the weights, then depending upon the occupancy, depending upon the occupancy, for which we use a previous footfall ratio historical data we use, and we estimate the occupancy. Depending upon the occupancy, we calculate equivalent number of non-AC rooms,
Yes.
or not rooms, actually room days. Equivalent number of non-AC room days we calculate. Okay, I'm just telling you,
Yes.
don't worry much. We will come to know how we do it. Actually, practically we'll be doing it, but I'm just telling you how we do it. So this we do, and then we divide the entire cost by equivalent number of room days.
Yes.
So we get cost per room day of a non-AC room.
Yes.
Then if we multiply that by 1.5, we will get cost per AC room.
Yes.
And obviously, if we are considering the tariff, the selling price, then we will add to the overall cost. We'll first add up the profit, and then we'll do this bifurcation. And we multiply that by 3, we will get per room day of suite.
Sweet.
So this is how we are going to do it. Okay?
Yes.
And we'll practically see how we can do it. In this case, the cost associated with different services offered should be identified, and cost per unit should be worked out. The cost per unit may be guest day or room day. For calculation of cost per guest day or room day, estimated occupancy rate at different point of time, for example, peak season, lean season, are taken into account. Obviously, if there is a season, off season, etc. kind of a thing, then that also is taken care of using the similar concept of equivalent units. We will see how that is to be also is done. Hospital. The cost of hospital can be divided into fixed and variable. Fixed costs are based on timelines and irrespective of the services provided. For example, staff salaries, depreciation on building equipment, etc. Variable costs vary depending upon the level of service, laundry charges, food supply to patient, power, etc. And obviously, similarly, fixed and variable, we make a bifurcation. We take a total cost and divide that by room number of patients or whatever cost unit we are using. So that's about hotels and lodges and hospitals. Can we go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Information technology and information technology enabled services. In this sector, the employee cost constitutes a significant portion of the total operating cost. Even if you look at any balance sheet or any profit and loss account of big IT companies, you will find that the employee cost has a major share in the total cost. In addition to employee cost, significant overhead costs for offering the services are incurred and are classified as service overhead. So there is a concept of project that is followed. If any of your friends or maybe any of your relatives, etc., are in IT industry, then what they do is they are always looking for the projects. Once they get the project, they assign a particular team to the project. So if you have heard from them, if there are any of your friends, you might have heard that the person who is working in IT is working on a certain project. So the project is located maybe in any European country. So he goes to the Europe, and the project is going to be for 1.5 years. At least it is going to be for that long. So it depends on the project. So what happens is, for IT, the project is a cost object, because you get a contract from a certain company, and that contract is nothing but a project. You work on that project, your team works on that project, then it is completed. Suppose it's a development of a software, development of any system, then it is handed over like that. Generally, it is worked on. Project concept is generally used. So jobs undertaken are considered as project. Each project is unique in nature and varies in size, functionality requirements, duration, staffing. Normally, project scheduling and effort estimation is carried out together for every project. Two things are very important: project scheduling and effort estimation. What do you mean by effort estimation? Any idea? What is the meaning of
the amount of labor required?
Yes, it is basically how many man hours you would need of what a quality of the employees, means of what skill sets of the employees are required. Both the things are important, Aditya, not only the quantity. what are the skill sets required, and for every skill set how many man hours are expected. That estimation is done upfront before the project is started, right? That is called as effort estimation. Efforts involved would be either direct manpower or support manpower. Direct manpower means who are actually directly working. So for example, software engineers, functional consultants, analysts, etc., project leaders, managers, program managers. And the cost, these are purely traceable costs, so these are called as direct costs. There is a support manpower which is involved, like quality assurance team, testing team, version control team, staffing manager. If their time can be identified, they will be treated as a direct. If it's traceable to the project, then direct. If it's not traceable, then they will be apportioned on a suitable basis. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that is about little more we shall discuss. So what are the costs involved? Hardware and software costs, travel and training costs, and effort cost. These are generally the IT industry classifies the cost. When it comes to the cost accounting, the costs are classified under these three heads generally. Okay,
Yes, sir.
just quickly go through the costs structure of IT industry. Hardware, software, if they are identifiable by a project, they are treated as direct. If not direct, treated as service overhead. Travel and training, again, traceable are charged directly. If not, then apportion. Effort cost, which we have already discussed, either it's a direct manpower or a support. Support is generally charged as service overheads. Can we go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Toll roads. Do you have any idea about the BOT concept?
No, sir.
No,
Build,
sir.
operate, transfer. BOT approach of the government. Do you have any idea about PPP model?
Yes.
What is it?
Public-private partnership means the government and the private players simultaneously invest in some project.
So what happens is, suppose you have to build a big road, okay, you have to build a national highway. It's a very long national highway. The project cost that is involved is in few thousand crores, yes or no?
Yes.
And government which has generally a limited sources, and they have a limitation on how much they can spend on infrastructure, but the infrastructure is really necessary for the development of the country, then this is the best idea. What they do is they invite the private players, the companies which are working in infrastructure, they invite them to construct the road. And what they do is in compensation of the construction cost involved, what government does is build, operate. They give them the rights to operate. Means for example, suppose there is a certain amount of cost involved, and considering the traffic that is involved, considering the number of vehicles that go through that road, they fix up the different toll rates. So this might have, you might have experienced that while traveling, there is a toll junction, and depending
Yes.
upon what type of vehicle you are traveling, and if it's a car, it's a different toll. For a goods vehicle, it's a different toll. There is a chart that is displayed there,
Yes.
and accordingly you pay the toll tax, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this toll goes to the infrastructure company who has built the road, and they are assigned the toll collection rights for a certain number of years. So obviously during those number of years there is a payback. Whatever the cost they have incurred, they recover, plus they recover profit also. So government is absolutely not at loss, because two things are happening. One thing is infrastructure is developing, at the cost of others, and their company is also not at loss because they are recovering toll from the people, from the public. So do you
Yes.
now understand what is build, operate and transfer? And then once this
Yes, sir.
Yes,
tenure,
sir.
suppose a 15-20 years period is over, then the purely the road is government property, then it is, and it is handed over to the government, handed back to the government. That is transfer. So build, operate and transfer. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cost involved, definitely initially the capital costs are involved. So see, when a construction starts till the construction ends, all costs are capital cost.
Yes.
And then after the capital cost is incurred, because the road sometimes, because of the conditions, weather conditions, because of the continuous traffic, there may be potholes, road may have means the condition of the road changes and it is to be maintained at certain level. So there are operation and maintenance costs.
Yes.
So for recovery of the toll, you have to fix up the toll booths, toll plazas,
Yes.
and you have to operate them. You have to employ certain number of employees for toll collection, etc. So operation cost is also involved. So these all are subsequent costs, operation and maintenance costs. Annual operation cost, cost of operating toll booth, communication, emergency, security services, all these need to be maintained. There are norms, there is an agreement between the government and the company. And maintenance cost, patching of potholes, sealing of cracks, edge repair, surface renewal, all those things. BOT approach. With build, operate, transfer approach, the private sector designs, finances, constructs and operate the facility, and eventually after the specified concession period, it's called as a concession period, during which the private company is allowed to, means the company which is in the private sector is allowed, not private company, company in a private sector is allowed to collect whatever it is. And how the toll rate is fixed. In general, the toll rate should have a direct relation with the benefits that the road users would gain from its improvements. The benefit to road users are likely to be in the form of fuel savings, improvement in travel time, good riding quality. So people also don't bother to pay the toll. If they are given good roads, they pay the toll. This is, the experience has shown this, right?
Yes.
Obviously, there are always certain number of idiots who will use some or other way of mechanism to avoid the toll, but that percentage is low. They will show some card, I am this one, I am that one, so I do not pay the toll and all. So everywhere there is certain share of idiots and we cannot avoid that, but otherwise generally people pay the toll, and because the benefits, they understand what they get from the toll roads. Okay. Then educational institutions. On income side, you have one-time fees like admission fee, etc. Recurring fees like tuition fees, laboratory fees. Other incomes, mess, canteen, hostel, whatever charges are recovered. On expense side, you have operational costs, salaries of teaching staff, non-teaching staff, maintenance, administration expenses, R&D expenses. Education institution undertake academic research on various fields of specialization. I don't know what kind of research they do, but yes, at least the cost is there recorded in the books for research and development. Cost of publication of research and other material. So these are on the expense side of the education institution. Nothing much about the education institution. That's as easy as that. Insurance companies. Generally, there are three types of products. Life insurance policies with or without maturity benefits. Generally, life insurance is called as assurance business, and other insurance is called as insurance business, right?
Yes.
And why it is called as assurance? Because you cannot insure life. Life gone is gone. It cannot come back. However, you assure that whoever is dependent on that person or their family members get a certain amount of money. So that's why it's an assurance business. When it comes to general insurance, it's a health insurance, fire insurance, property, travel insurance, all these. Apart from life insurance, all others are generally called as general insurance. And there are other services like reinsurance, fund management, pension fund, gratuity fund. These types of products are also offered by insurance companies. Premium on the policy, one-time premium, periodic premium, commission on reinsurance. If you are providing a reinsurance to the other company, then you get a commission. And fund administration fee, return on investment of funds. These are the incomes of insurance companies. On expenses, there could be direct expenses like commission paid, like claim settlement, cost of valuation, etc. And there could be indirect costs like actuarial fee, market and product development cost, etc. And use of activity-based costing is generally used for analysis of cost benefit of a product. That is, see, insurance companies, the challenge is that there is no certainty about when the claims will come up. There is no certainty about when the certain costs will be incurred. Correct?
Yes.
So they go by a different methodology. As far as the financial accounts are concerned, they go by a different methodology altogether. Their methodology is depending upon making certain provisions based on statistical evaluations. Because suppose if it's a life insurance company, is it possible for a life insurance company to precisely predict how much claims will be settled next year?
No.
Or over the period also, it's not possible for any life insurance company to settle that. So they go by certain statistical assumptions and obviously certified statistical calculations. There is an insurance act in which all the provisions are contained as to how these two things are to be done. However, as far as the costing is concerned, if insurance companies offer, see, insurance company offers different types of products. You should agree to this. If it's a life insurance company, they have, for example, Life Insurance Corporation of India, the public company, Jeevan Jyoti, Jeevan Aadhar, this and that, hundreds different types of products. Yes or no?
Yes.
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 And even there are different types of customer range also. Different types of customers. Child policies pertaining to certain class, so pension policies pertaining to certain class. So they use an activity-based costing to come to the product profitability or customer profitability analysis. Okay. So when understood this, insurance companies, why they use activity-based costing generally. Okay. So how the activities are bifurcated. There are pre-product development activities and post-product development activities. Means you are launching a new product. Till the launch, there are certain activities which are called pre-product development activities. So these are the activities which are carried out before a product is made. It includes market research, product development like specification of coverage, condition, amount of premium. All these product specification while you are developing, all those development costs. Okay. And post-product development activities would be selling of the policy, processing of the claims. Selling of policy refers to appointment of sales channel, agent appointment. Many things are there. Processing of claims includes claim inception, means the arising of claim, estimation of claim, claim settlement, legal course of actions if any required. These are the activities. Is it clear?
Yes,
Practically, we will take up some questions, and that's not very difficult part, but theoretically, at least let's have an understanding of how the concepts of costing are applied to the service costing, so that while solving the practical questions, it will be easy. That is the whole purpose of this presentation. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now, if you come to the financial institution, activity-based costing can be a useful tool in allocating the cost element to different products offered and the customers being served. Now, if it's a financial institution, also there are different types of products. Even for our accounts, there are, do you remember, we did one problem in activity-based costing where there was a premier account.
Yes, sir.
And there are 3 types of customers we were evaluating. One customer was using so many services. One customer
Yes.
was maintaining too much balance but not availing any of the services. Like that we analyzed, if you remember.
Yes.
So that's how it is applied actually. Activity-based costing can help the financial institution to identify and analyze the profitability by product. Means product-wise profitability can be analyzed. Analyze the profitability by customer and identify the activity level units cost and build up the product level cost, which in turn form the basis of product level pricing, customer level pricing, because these decisions are to be taken. Okay, can we go ahead? Powerhouses. The cost unit for electricity generation organization is cost per kWh, kilowatt hour. Okay, even in the first slide we discussed this. So costs are analyzed as, see, this is also important, the bifurcation, how we present this. We present this under three heads: standing charges or fixed cost, rent, rates, taxes, insurance, depreciation, administrative expenses. Running cost, we are generating power, so fuel is required, water is required, certain wages are required, some other variable costs may be there. And semi-variable include meters, furnaces, service materials. These are generally maintenance related costs. So this is a cost analysis of powerhouses. Just quickly go through the types of costs.
Done.
Okay. Go to your question bank. Question number 1. A lorry starts with a load of 20 tons of goods from station A. It unloads 8 tons at station B and rest of the goods at station C. It reaches back directly to station A after getting reloaded with 16 tons of goods at station C. The distance between A to B, B to C and C to A are 80 kilometers, 120 kilometers and 160 kilometers respectively. Compute the absolute ton kilometers and commercial ton kilometers. A to B distance is 80, B to C is 120. So C to A should have been 200 kilometers, is it?
Yes.
But it is 160 kilometers. Is it possible?
Yes.
They may use another route.
Huh.
C to A, see, from A to C straightway you may go 160 kilometers, but en route you go to some other destination and you again go to, so it's kind of a triangular, maybe the destinations are located in a triangular form, so it's possible, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so they ask us to calculate absolute ton kilometers. Let me share with you the diagram, how it will look like. It will look like this. Yes?
Yes.
So if quickly, rough diagram you may draw if you want. Just A, B and C, simply 80 kilometers, 120, 160, just you show. And then we'll calculate the absolute ton kilometers as well as commercial ton kilometers.
Done, sir.
Okay. So now we'll calculate this, understand this. We'll first calculate absolute ton kilometers, that is weighted average. See, don't write anything, just listen to me first. You started with 20 metric tons, correct?
Yes.
And you traveled 80 kilometers, right?
Yes.
Then after 80 kilometers, you unloaded 8 tons. So now the weight remains is 12 metric tons.
12.
Sir.
Yes.
And this you traveled another 120 kilometers.
120.
120.
Now at C, how much weight is loaded? 16 metric tons.
16 metric tons.
And this you travel 160 kilometers. So that is absolute ton kilometers. You understand this?
Sir.
So 20 into 80 is 1600 plus 1440 plus 16 into 160. Please tell me how much it is.
2560.
2560.
So that's 5600 ton kilometers, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And then we calculate commercial ton kilometers. Simple average. Okay. Okay, understand this. This much is done. 5600 kilometers have you written?
No, sir.
Okay, now we'll calculate the commercial ton kilometers, which is simple average. Now, see, average, we'll first calculate the average of weight that is carried. So 20 tons plus 12 tons plus 16 tons divided by 3. Okay, can I call this as an average, simple average? 20 tons, sometimes you carry 12 tons, sometimes you
Yes.
carry, sometimes you carry 16 tons. 20 plus 12 plus 16 by 3 is a simple average. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Into total distance traveled, 80 kilometers plus 120 kilometers plus 160 kilometers. So 20 plus 12 plus 16 by 3, tell me how much average of this?
16.
16 metric tons
Yes.
into 360 kilometers.
Yes.
So tell me how much is that?
5760.
5760 ton kilometers. That is commercial ton kilometer. If nothing is given, we always calculate absolute ton kilometers. Done?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Should we go to the next question?
Yes, sir.
Let's read it. You have been given a permit to run a bus on a route 20 kilometers long. The bus costs you 9 lakh rupees. It has to be insured at 3% per annum and the annual tax will be rupees 10,000. Garage rent is 10,000 per month annual repairs will be rupees 10,000, and the bus is likely to last for 5 years, at the end of which the scrap value is likely to be rupees 60,000. The driver's salary 1,500 per month, conductor 1,000, together with 10% of the takings as a commission to be shared equally by both. Takings, what do you mean by takings? Yes, tell me, what do you mean by takings?
The
Passenger.
the amount received from the ticket collection.
Correct, that's a revenue that you receive. Okay, that is the meaning of takings. Stationery will be 500 per month, manager cum accountant salary will be rupees 3,500 month. डीजल एंड ऑयल मैनेजर कम अकाउंटेंट, सो जिसको मैनेजर है उसी को अकाउंट्स का काम भी उन्होंने दे रखा है, एंड सैलरी 3,500 दे आर गिविंग. डीजल एंड ऑयल rupees 450 per kilometer per 100 kilometers. The bus will make 3 round trips for carrying on average 40 passengers on each trip. Assuming 15% profit on takings, calculate the bus fare to be charged from each passenger. The bus will work on the average 25 days in a month. I just want you to do one thing. Okay, suppose consider a period of the entire year, period of 12 months. Okay, consider the period of 12 months. I want you to calculate the total distance traveled by the bus. Total distance traveled by the bus. Please only do this one calculation for me.
Yes, sir.
Sir, 36,000 kilometers.
Absolutely correct. 36,000 kilometers is a total distance traveled. See, the route is 20 kilometers. All of you, please listen to me. Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
you are making 3
Yes.
round trips. So 20 into 3, and it's a round trip, means you go and come back. So into 2.
Yes.
20 into 3 into
120.
120.
2 into 25 days in a month. This is per day. So into 25
3,000.
into 12, because this we are calculating for the entire year. So 36,000 kilometers. Yes,
Yes.
all of you, is it clear why 36,000 kilometers?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one more thing. If you are carrying on an average 40 passengers on each trip, and if I have to calculate passenger kilometers, would it be 36,000 into 40?
Into 40. Yes, sir.
So that would be how much it is? 14 lakh 40,000.
14 lakh
Yes,
40,000.
sir.
So 14 lakh 40,000 passenger kilometers. These two things should be clear in our mind. Should we
Yes,
start
sir.
solving this question?
Yes.
Just give me a sec. Yes. Is Excel file visible?
Yes, sir.
So this simple format you prepare: operating cost statement, cost per annum in rupees.
Done, sir.
Around 25 to 30 rows would be required. And since we have already discussed this, we should write this as a working note number 1. Total distance traveled 20 into 3 into 2 into 25 into 12. 36,000 kilometers. That is my working note number 1, and working note number 2 would be total passenger kilometers 40 into 36,000.
Done, sir.
Okay. Let's start doing it one by one. So our first classification would be standing charges. You have been given permit to run bus 20 kilometers. The bus costs you 9 lakh. 9 lakh is a cost. Scrap value is given. Life is given. Can we calculate depreciation?
Yes.
Please
Yes,
tell me
sir.
what is the amount of depreciation? Nine lakh minus residual value is 60,000, right?
Yes.
And life is 5 years. So tell me how much is the depreciation per annum? Yes, Shivraj, that's correct. 1,68,000. Then you have annual tax. No. Oh, sorry. It has to be insured at 3% and annual tax will be 10,000. You first have insurance and then your annual tax. Anyway, the sequence doesn't matter much. Let's first write about insurance. Insurance is also a fixed cost, right?
Yes.
When they say insurance is 3% per annum, simply we can do 9 lakh into 3%. Is it 27,000?
Yes, sir.
And annual tax is straightway given as 10,000. Garage rent. Understand this. Generally, we classify the garage rent as under maintenance charges, but sometimes it can be also classified under standing charges. Doesn't make much of difference. The final answer is always correct. Only the presentation changes a bit. However, we'll go by our standard that we will mention it under maintenance charges. 3-4 lines you would leave for standing charges, and then you write maintenance charges, and then we'll write here garage rent. And the rent is 10,000 per month, correct?
Yes. Yes.
We cannot forget that we are doing a calculation for the year. This you should be always conscious about this. So garage rent is 1,20,000. Let's go ahead. Annual repairs will be 10,000. So straightway repairs we can write
Yes.
10,000. Then let's go ahead. Driver's salary will be 1,500 per month and conductors 1,000 together with 10% commission. See, commission we won't be able to calculate unless we calculate the revenue, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So commission will have to wait. We cannot calculate right now. But at least apart from commission, salary and drivers and conductors salary is straightway we can calculate.
Yes.
So what we generally do is this we classify under the third head. which is my operating and running charges. See, drivers and conductor salary, few people see under maintenance charges, nothing is left actually. So you can just leave 1 or 2 lines for subtotals and write operating and running charges. Generally, drivers and conductor salary is classified under operating and running charges. However, in some cases, they classified under standing charges also. Driver's salary is how much?
1,500 per
1,500
month.
into 12, 18,000.
Yes.
And conductor salary is 1,000 per month. And also commission to driver and conductor, we don't know yet, right?
Yes.
So we will just mention working note number 3, which we shall prepare later. Right now we'll just mention so that we don't forget. Done?
Yes, sir.
Then you have stationery cost 500 per month. Should I write that under standing charges?
Yes, sir.
500 into 12, 6,000. Then let's read further. Manager come accountant salary 3,500. That also would come here. $3,500 into 12. 42,000. Done?
Yes, sir.
Then what next? Diesel and oil will be 450 per 100 kilometers. Tell me the total amount of diesel and oil expenses, which would come under operating and running charges, obviously. 450 के हिसाब से total amount बताइए जरा.
1,62,000.
That's correct. 36,000 kilometers we have already calculated into 450 divided by 100. 450 per 100 kilometers.
Yes.
1,62,000. Just tell me, are we done with all the expenses as given? Anything is left? Just confirm whether anything is left. Okay, so if nothing is left, our duty is to calculate the commission. Correct? Yes or no? Tell me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I give you time, 2-3 minutes time. Can you calculate the amount of commission? This
Yes.
amount, let me highlight it here. You use your rough book. Tell me this amount. Rugved says 76,667. Others, please tell me. No one? You want more
1
time?
minute, sir.
Abhishek
Yes,
also says 76,667. Aditya Pendulkar says 67,647. Okay. Should I tell you? Rugved? That's correct answer. Rugved, Abhishek, both of you. Rugved, can you tell me how you calculated? Total cost is 75% of the sales. Okay. That's correct. So let's do it this way. Let us write here working note number 3. Calculation of commission, profit and gross takings. Okay. So how we do understand? They say that the commission is 10% of the takings and the profit is 15% of the takings. So if the takings is 100 rupees, commission is 10%, 10 rupees, profit is 15 rupees. So 75% is the cost. Correct, Rugved? That's what you're saying? Correct. So now already you have prepared a cost statement. So whatever cost is there in the cost statement is this 75. You just gross it up. You just use a cross multiplication equation for this. This is how it will be done. Understand this. Say takings 100. So if the takings is 100 means the fare is 100 rupees, then commission would be 10 rupees and profit, if I deduct profit, it would be 15 rupees. So that means cost excluding commission would be 75 rupees. Please write this, start writing working note number 3. Say takings 100, commission 10, profit 15. So cost excluding commission 75. Written?
Yes, sir.
Now just take, we have not yet completed our cost statement, but we have written all the costs excluding commission. So tell me how much it is. Cost excluding commission.
75,000.
So as per operating cost statement above, how much was that?
5,75,000.
5,75,000.
Yes.
Okay, so that is a cost excluding commission. Now it's very easy. If the cost is 75, commission is 10, cost 5,75,000, how much is commission? If the cost is 75, profit is 15, cost is 5,75,000, how much is profit? If the cost is 75, takings are 100. If the cost is 5,75,000, how much are the takings? Anything can be calculated using this, right? Let's first calculate takings. Takings would be 5,75,000 into 100 divided by 75. Yes or no? That because when cost is 75, takings are 100. Simple. So into 100 by 75, 7,66,667 would be the takings. So commission would be simply 10% of the takings now. 7,66,667 into 10%. 76667, and profit would be 7,66,667 into 15%. $1,15,000. Done?
Yes, sir.
Or this can be also calculated as 5,75,000 into 15 by 75. Sorry, commission 10 by 75 and profit 15 by 75. This way also it can be calculated. So here now let's write this commission. It was 76,667. Now just take the subtotals. First, standing charges subtotals is 2,53,000. Maintenance charges subtotal you take. Operating and running charges subtotal you take. And then the total of everything should be is it 6,57,667? Please check and tell me once this is done.
Done, sir.
So let's add profit to this. We have done it in working note number 3. It is how much? 1,15,000. So that will give you total takings. This matches also with our working note. Total taking 7,66,667. We'll divide that by passenger kilometers. We are already calculated passenger kilometers 14,40,000.
Yes, sir.
So takings per passenger kilometer would be 7,66,667 divided by 14,40,000. 0.5324 up to 4 decimal places. You better write it. And the question asks you what is a per route fare, correct? So if the takings per passenger kilometers is 0.5324 and one-way route is 20 kilometers, correct? So takings per route would be 0.5324 into 20 kilometers. 10.648 to 1 or 2 maybe slight rounding of difference is possible. Tell me once this is done.
Done.
Okay. So let's go to question number 3. Let's read. The public school, different directions, they are plying the buses. In view of larger number of students availing the bus service, the buses works 2 shifts daily, morning and afternoon. The buses are garaged in the school. The workload of the students has been so arranged that in the morning, the first trip picks up the senior student, the second trips an hour later picks up the junior students. In the afternoon, the first trip takes the junior students, and an hour later, the second trip takes the senior students. The distance traveled by each bus one way is 8 kilometers. The school works 25 days in a month and remains closed for vacation in May, June, and December. Bus fee, however, is payable by the students for all 12 months in a year. The details, various types of details of expenses are given. Each bus gives on an average mileage of 4 kilometers per liter of diesel. Mileage is given. Seating capacity is 50 students. The seating capacity is fully occupied during the whole year. Student picked up and dropped within a range of 4 kilometers are charged half fare. So this is just a typo error. Half fare, and 50% of the students traveling in each trip are in this category. Ignore interest. Since the charges are to be based on average cost, you are required to prepare a statement showing expenses of operating a single bus and a fleet of 5 buses for a year. Second, work out the average cost per student per month in respect of students coming from a distance of 4 kilometers and students coming from a distance beyond 4 kilometers. I just want you to do one thing for me, guys. There are 5 buses, but ignore 5 buses. Consider single bus, 1 bus, and tell me how much is the distance traveled during the year. 1 bus, how much is the distance traveled for 1 year? Calculate and tell me.
The 3 months are to be fully excluded, right?
Read the question. I won't say anything. Just calculate the distance traveled. Mayuri says it's 14,400 kilometer. Okay. Karuna also says 14,400 kilometer. Shivraj also says the same. Most of you are saying the same, and that's correct. Absolutely correct. The distance traveled is 14,400 kilometer because, understand this. See, the buses are garaged in the school. So how it will happen is, the bus will go empty to the student's place, and then 50 students will come to school. Then for the senior students, again the bus will go, and the 50, sorry, first the senior students would come, then the junior students would come. Correct? This is at the time when the school
Yes.
starts. When the school ends, means when the day is ended, then the senior students are dropped once and junior students are dropped once. So that means there are total 8 trips. Do you agree, all of you guys? There are 8
Yes,
trips.
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So
Yes,
8
sir.
trips of 8 kilometers.
Yes.
That means every day the bus is traveling 64 kilometers.
Yes.
And in a year, there are 25 days in a month. However, only for 9 months the bus will travel, because in the vacation it
Yes.
won't. So it is 64 into 25 into 9, 14,400 kilometers. Absolutely correct. So what we'll do is, let's start solving this question. Is this Excel file visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we will have the statement. And what the question says is, they are also asking us to prepare a statement for 1 bus as well as for 5 buses. Okay. So this is a statement. In this format we shall prepare this. Tell me once you are ready with the format, so we'll start solving it.
Done, sir.
Okay, so leave around 20 to 24 lines, and we'll prepare first working note. Working note number 1 is distance traveled. Per day, 8 kilometers into 8 trips. $64, and in a year, 64 kilometers into 25 days into 9 months. 14,400. Done?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we will have a bifurcation. First will standing charges. Then second would be maintenance. Standing charges 4-5 rows for maintenance, hardly 1 or 2. And then third is operating and running. For operating and running, another 5-6 rows would be sufficient. And then for the last 3-4 rows will require for half fare, full fare students, how much would be the cost per kilometer, that calculation. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Driver's salary is the first cost that is given, correct?
Yes.
4,500 per month. Operating and running charges, should we write it here? 4,500 into 12. Okay, what we do is we will finish off with the single bus column. Okay,
Yes.
and then fleet of 5 buses, later on you multiply everything by 5 and then we'll
Yes.
write on there. So we'll first only do a single bus column first and then we'll see. Cleaner salary also will, and they clearly given that the salary is payable for all 12 months. So I multiplied it by 12. The cleaner salary now is 3,500 into 12. 8,400. Sorry, it's why 8,400. I'll tell you, because one cleaner is for all the buses, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
One cleaner is for 5 buses. There is only one cleaner. It is given one cleaner employed for all 5 buses. So I'm just dividing it by 5. Understood this? Very important. Otherwise, if you just
Yes.
3,500 you do, it will go wrong. A license fee and taxes should be written under standing charges.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Per bus per annum. Per bus 8,600. Insurance 10,000. Repairs and maintenance 35,000. So we will write it here. Per bus per annum 35,000. Now the purchase cost of bus is given 15 lakh. Life is 12 years. Scrap value is given. We can calculate depreciation, right?
Yes.
So depreciation would be the cost is 12 lakh. Sorry, 15 lakh. Residual value is 3 lakh. So 12 lakh is the depreciable amount divided by 12.
12 years.
So 1 lakh per annum would be the depreciation. And diesel cost is given. See, it is given that the mileage is 4 kilometers, right?
Yes.
Each bus gives an average mileage of 4 kilometers is a mileage. So that means, and 45 per liter is a cost. See, 14,400 kilometers into 45 by 4 would be the cost. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or 14,400 divided by 4, that much liter diesel would be required. Let's write that way. It's easy to understand. 14,000 divided by 4, itna diesel lagega, correct? इतना लीटर डीजल लगेगा और डीजल कॉस्ट इज 45 rupees per liter. So how much it is? The amount
1,62,000.
Okay, just check whether any cost is we are done with all the types, all the expenses we have covered, or anything is pending. Just please confirm really quick.
Done, sir.
Done, sir.
Just take the totals. Is the total cost 3,78,000? Just check.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This much is done. All of you just confirm that it's done.
Yes, sir.
So that
Yes,
I'll
sir.
explain it to you now how it is to be done further. See, what it says is we have to read it carefully. Work out the average cost per student per month in respect of the students coming from a distance up to 4 kilometers and the students coming from a distance beyond 8 kilometers. I again ask you the same question. Is it possible that this cost can be exactly bifurcated into students for more than 4 kilometers and students for less than 4 kilometers? Because even for students for more than 4 kilometers, few will be at 5 kilometers, few will be at 6 kilometers, few will be very far 8 kilometers. Nobody
Yes.
beyond 8 kilometers though. Is that correct?
Yes.
And even for less than 4 kilometers, some will be very near like 2 kilometers, some will be 3 kilometers. So it's not possible. Then what we do is we use the concept of equivalent output wala jo concept hai, which we use for product costing in process. The similar concept we use. Okay. So
Yes.
how we are going to do, I'll explain it to you and you will understand it. It's not very difficult to understand. I'll explain it to you. Working note number 2, calculation of number of students and equivalent number of students. Please write this: calculation of number of students and equivalent number of students. Working note number 2. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, tell me a simple thing. The bus capacity is how much?
50 students.
And how much is the occupancy? Occupancy.
Full.
Fully, so 100%.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, don't write anything yet. Understand this. Okay. I just want a little help of yours, but please don't write anything yet. First understand, then I'll give you time for writing. See, I'm asking you full fare students, let me write this way, and half fare students. Okay. They say that 50% are the full fare students
Yes.
Yes.
and 50% are the half fare students.
Student.
Okay. So I'm asking you, however, the bus is making actually effectively 4 trips.
Yes.
Yes.
However, every day the number of students that is carrying, one bus is carrying, is only 100.
Yes.
Because junior students, 50 students come and go, senior 50 students come and go.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Correct? So that's why what is happening is, for picking the students, the bus goes, junior student comes, again bus goes, senior student comes. Okay. The sequence may be different. And while dropping them back, again the bus drops the senior students at a time, comes back, drops the junior students, comes back. Correct?
Yes.
So that means, is it like this, that one bus actually serves 100 students?
Yes.
100 students served. 15 to 2. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm asking you now, out of the 100 students, 50% are full fare, maybe senior, junior, we don't know, but 50
Yes.
students are full fare students, means those who are traveling beyond 4 kilometers, and 50 are those who are traveling for less than less than 4 kilometers. Yes or no?
Yes.
So can I say that 100 students into 50%, that means 50 students are full fare, and 100
Yes.
students into 50%, 50 students are half fare.
Half.
So total there are 100 number of students. Now I am asking you, suppose I have to assign weight, and I assume that one full fare student is one student, then can I say that one half fare student is 0.5 student? I repeat, if I'm saying I assign one weight 1 for a full fare student, then half fare means 50% only he is paying. Can I assign weight of 0.5?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So now if I calculate equivalent number of full fare students, correct? This would give me equivalent number of, means if the all students were full fare, then actually there would be 75 students paying full fare. Do you agree?
Yes.
See, if the 75% student pay full fare, it is equal to 50% student paying full fare and another 50 students paying half fare. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, I ask you, let's understand this way. Suppose full fare is 100 rupees. Okay, then half fare is 50 rupees.
Yes.
Okay, now 50 students into 100. Please do it on a calculator for me. 50 into 100
5,000.
and 50 into 50. Take a total of these two.
7,500.
7,500 is equal to 75 into 100.
Yes.
So now do you get it? How we use this equivalent concept for this? Have you understood, all of you, what I'm trying to tell you? Huh? Aditya,
Yes,
Rugved,
sir.
Shivraj, Kavita, Archana. Have you understood, all of you? Please finish this note.
Sir.
Please finish this note. Tell me once such is done.
Done, sir.
Rugved, I'm waiting. Tell me once it's done. So now we'll go back to our cost statement and understand this. Let me divide this by equivalent number of full fare students, which is 75. So I get cost per student per annum 3,75,000 divided by 75, 5040. Please write this. Cost per student per annum is 5040. Obviously, this is for full fare. Done. Okay, but the question asks you work out the average cost per student per month. Now I'm asking you, even though the bus is running for 9 months, they say that the fare is recovered for entire 12 months. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this cost, if I had to calculate a monthly basis, we would divide by 12, not by 9. Yes? Full fare cost per student per month would be 5040 divided by 12. And then for half fare, the cost would be 420 divided by 2. Half of that, 210. Done?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, this is not a fare. This is only the cost. If we add the profit, we can calculate the fare also. But they have asked us only the cost. Done? I just want you to cross check. Aditya, will you help me a bit?
Yes, sir.
See, 420 is a cost for a full fare students. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So just do it for me. 420 into 12
Yes. 5040.
into 50 students.
Yes.
Just do it.
2,52,000.
Okay. And now do it for me. 210 into 12 into 50 students.
1,26,000.
And the total of these two is 3,78,000, which is my total
Yes,
cost.
sir.
So this is how I use the concept of equivalent number of students and bifurcate the total cost. Now you get it. Is it clear, all of you, why this
Yes,
equivalent
sir.
number of student concept has been used?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this can be done in other way also. Okay, for example, we can assume that the half fare students weight is 1. Okay, so in that case, full fare student weight would be 2.
Yes.
So that means your equivalent number of students would be 150, I think, in that case.
Yes, sir.
And average cost would be exactly half, but that would be for half fare student. So you will directly get 210. and you multiply that by 2 to get 420. Other way also is possible, whichever way you do, but it's better to assume the full phase student weight as 1 and accordingly adjust the other weights. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
We will take a short break, 2 minutes break, and then we'll resume.